Hey yo guys, I'm back here to give you my thoughts on some of the news items going around in the world of combat sports, plus give you a quick review of last Saturday night's HBO Boxing After Dark, which was of course main evented by Juan Urango versus Berto. You know what I gotta say for, an HBO show, the main event didn't really deliver, but the co-main event, which I really wasn't looking that forward to, considering it had Kermit Cintron in there, who, going off his last performance, wasn't anything positive to write home about. I mean, yeah, he fought better once he got knocked down, but still, you weren't like, oh yeah, can't wait for that Cintron fight. But actually, Kermit Cintron showed up. He was in there with a real tough opponent, someone, in my opinion, definitely tougher than, Martinez and Alfredo Angulo, and he did what, a true pro should be able to do. He kept the fight how he wanted it. There were moments in the fight I thought, Cintron wanted to keep this as a boxing match, not a brawl, which, Angulo really likes to do. He really likes to let those haymakers go, or those big punches, I should say. And Cintron just was like, nah, I'm going to bide my time. I'm going to box. I'm going to outbox Angulo. I'd say maybe the first 8 rounds. Definitely the first one the first round I gave to Angulo because, while Cintron may have outboxed Angulo, I thought Angulo hit the more punches that were more effective. So that's why I had to give that round to Alfredo Angulo. But then from then on, it was just Cintron outworking Angulo, dictating the pace, keeping the fight his way, and really showing that, he really got a kick in the pants from, that draw to Martinez, which, I'm pretty sure in his mind he shouldn't have won, or in his corners or camp's mind realized it shouldn't have even been a draw. He should have lost that fight. And, those 2 losses to Margarito, who, we all know, now there may be some controversy with those losses. I've kept been saying that, ever since they found the hand wraps issues with the Mosley fight back in January. But, he still kept it going. Now, his cardio may have not been the best thing, as, he kind of thought maybe, I don't know, I don't think he thought that he had the fight in the bag. Probably thought he was winning, but he just, he wasn't fighting at the pace he was then, so his cardio may have lacked off. And this allowed Alfredo Angulo to get back into the fight. He won rounds 8 to about 11, I would say, making this fight really interesting. Going into the 12th and final round, but then, from that moment on, it was just Cintron, doing the fight, what he did the most of the fight, just outboxing, and really, staying away. He just wasn't, he didn't want to mix it up. Like, in the early portion of the fight, Angulo looked like he was going to, turn the momentum and turn it into a brawl, but he kept it steady, did Cintron, and won the fight. It was a good fight, really enjoyed it, and, it shows that, anything can happen in boxing. Like, one guy for 1 minute can be the most hated guy in the world, and the next minute, whoa, that guy actually put up a good performance, and we like him again. So that's what, that's one thing you love about boxing. And I gotta give big props there to Kermit Cintron. Wasn't that big of a fan of him throughout his career, but, I knew he was a tough fighter. It's just he wasn't gonna be the most marketable guy. Still don't think this performance is the most marketable performance from him. But it shows that, hey, you can bring on a tough opponent, someone you want to be, potentially that could be a star. Give him Kermit Cintron because he'll give him a tough outing. But then, of course, our main event was Berto versus Juan Urango. I mean, I believe Urango was coming up in weight. Really, this wasn't as, great of a performance as, the Collazo fight, which I keep raving about back from January as well. Up until, the Diaz-Marquez fight, that was my fight of the year. But, the issue with me, it's not that, Berto's boring. That's fucking not true. Styles make fights. He didn't have an opponent that was, giving him much of a test. Collazo was a tougher customer, or like a more experienced fighter. I mean, hell, Collazo technically beat Ricky Hatton. But, the judges didn't give him, the cards didn't fall his way. So, that's how I look at it. Urango's still a tough customer. I mean, he was able to hang in there throughout the fight. Definitely didn't win any rounds, in my opinion. It was just Berto's skill set, brought it to the table. But, people who probably say, oh, he's not entertaining. He's not going to get that big fight. I would disagree. I'd say that the Berto family as a whole are very entertaining, fighters. I mean, Berto definitely proved it in his last fight with Collazo. I'm talking Andre Berto. Brother Edson, very exciting mixed martial artist. Had one of the more memorable fights, I would say, in the, Elite XC promotion of last year with Eve Edwards. He was on the end of a highlight reel knockout. And his father, martial artist, and, pro wrestler. More of a shoot fighter, more so than anything. But still, does this fight get Berto top contenders, with the big money fights? Does it give him top contenders? Yes. Does it give him big money fights on, a pay-per-view undercard or something? I don't think so. I don't think this is the performance there. I still think he will be on HBO or a Showtime main event, but this wasn't the performance that he wanted. If he had another performance like with Collazo, then, like he did with Collazo, then maybe we'd be talking. Because that fight with Collazo, he proved that, he can face some adversity and come back. This one, he just outmatched his opponent with skill and cardio. I mean, Andre Berto is a very good athlete as well, as you can tell. I mean, he came, in fantastic shape for this fight. But yeah, that was the boxing. Pretty good, solid night of fights, I have to say. I mean, main event wasn't that good, but I think it was just more two guys' styles not meshing. It wasn't that, oh, Juan Urango was a bum or anything like that. Nah, I wouldn't say that at all. But yeah, like I keep saying, Cintron showed up, and I would like to see more of Kermit Cintron showing up. And, Angulo made the fight interesting as well. Let's not, discredit Alfredo Angulo. And the thing I liked about, Angulo's they kept telling him, this is something I like about trainers when they basically cut the truth. They're not, man, you're winning that fight. You're keeping it close. No, not at all. Alfredo Angulo was losing until, he got things going, and they were like, hey, you have a chance to win. So I did like that. But on to the news. Some pretty decent amount of news has come out over the past week, both in MMA as well as pro wrestling. I'll start with, I guess the big top news of all is the fact that Kennedy got released. To me, is this that big of a deal? Not really. Not as big as I thought it, I don't think it's as big as people are making it out to be. It's shocking in a sense since the man just returned, and, now if you've noticed on, the promos that I'm sure they're airing on USA as well, Score in Canada about Raw being about tonight's Raw being MVP versus Kofi Kingston, and what's Kennedy gonna do since he returned. Not even, realizing that the man's been released. I mean, they can't do that. That's just something that the WWE did, and it's not USA or the Score's fault, anything. But anyways, really, Kennedy's release, I mean, it was expected. I mean, the man had done, mainly due to the fact he was doing a movie and he was hurt, and there wasn't much happening with him. Even when you look when he came back, they put these promo videos on Raw, and, there wasn't that much buzz about him coming back. The way I kind of equate it is, look, Umaga. Like, him and Umaga both got hurt around the same time. Yeah, Umaga made a comeback, but he hurt his knee again and came back. He was at the same status of when he came back on the card. The fans still cared about him. They gave him the good reactions. When Kennedy came back last week on Raw, it was, cool, he's back. Who cares? Like, let's continue with the show. It wasn't that big of a deal. Now, the main reason that he got released, now, he came back, of course, was in that 8-man tag with the jerseys or whatever, and he hurt Randy Orton. Now, the thing you have to look at is he hurts Randy Orton, who not only is the WWE champion, but he dropped him on the shoulder that the man broke, or the collarbone that he broke in the last year at Extreme Rules, almost a year to the day. Today is actually a year since that happened. But you also have a guy who's, with Triple H. Like, not that type of related, but, they talk and stuff like that. I mean, Triple H is obviously a big proponent for Randy Orton, or there's no way in hell Randy Orton would be where he is. I mean, could he have been? Maybe. He's got, a talent, he has a look, and actually has a good promo, but who knows if WWE would have given him that. I mean, fuck, remember what he was doing, the RNN and stuff like that? He was just a generic babyface, too, so who knows, with Triple H, picking him. Anyway, that's what you have to look at. You don't want to have an injury to your top star, but, the word going around was in that match, he was working people too stiff. And I mean, part of me is like, well, sometimes you have to work stiff. And plus, WWE's mentality when they made the switch to HD was, let's work a little stiffer. But you don't want to be hurting people. I mean, you can throw a stiff punch, a stiff kick. I mean, no problem. These guys are going to take that. But, dropping people, like, hurting them, that is not good. You don't want to do that at all. I mean, accidents can happen, yes, but to have every flow or move of that match, it's not good. Plus, I think the WWE was like, look, we have given this guy so many chances to be the next big thing here. I mean, we've given him wins. Undertaker, he won Money in the Bank. We booked him to cash that in. To, I believe it was to beat Taker for it. Be champion. We were going to give him the frickin' biggest rub he ever had by being the illegitimate son of Vince McMahon. I mean, Jesus Christ, we put him in a movie that we were, co-producing. Yeah, it was a straight-to-DVD release, but still, put him in a movie. So, they obviously had plans for Ken Kennedy. And, him getting hurt, and him giving these horrible interviews about, steroids, and him making himself look like an ass. I mean, that's just not good. Plus, his name showing up in Sports Illustrated, not a good thing for Mr. Ken Anderson. So the question now, so all that obviously had to come in, and WWE was like, look, and he heard it. Now the wrist thing he showed, that definitely wasn't, a major issue. I don't think they're going to be like, oh, you hurt your wrist again, we're going to fire you. That's first of all illegal to do. But, that was a minor thing, but I think it's like, look, I don't think he can handle the schedule. Gotta let him go. Plus, he came back and was cold. He was a big guy returning, a surprise entrant in a match, on a show that had, more publicity for a show that it's ever gonna get on television, with the whole ESPN and Vince McMahon stuff. But still, no one cared, so that's just my thoughts on that. Where will he go? He's definitely gonna be, probably making indie convention stuff, or up until, I guarantee you TNA will sign him. I mean, yeah, he was in TNA in the early stages of TNA. Anderson, his real name, but still. The only guy whose thoughts I really haven't gotten to see on this are Paul Heyman's. I'd like to see Paul Heyman's, because when Paul Heyman was writing OVW, he was the one that told Kennedy, look, you're a really good talker, but there's just something missing, and if you say your name twice, that's just going to piss the fans off. I mean, that's his catchphrase, and so I'd like to know his thoughts on it, because, he helped give him, that little nudge. Almost superstardom. I mean, this man was there. He had all the tools, just couldn't use them properly. So it's an unfortunate thing, but I think it's either TNA or he'll be back by by WWE. Once their 90-day thing is up, they'll be or maybe in a year he'll be back. Probably. I mean, he has, a lot of friends in the company, and they can probably push to get him going, so we'll see. Moving quickly to the realms of mixed martial arts, just a lot of news coming out of the UFC, with their TUF show, TUF 10. We'll have Rashad Evans and Rampage Jackson, and I think this will be good, because we're doing heavyweights again, and who better to coach heavyweights than the last guy to win at heavyweight than Rashad Evans. Rashad was the underdog of that whole story. We have Rampage back on the show, and Rampage is such a great guy on television. He's got such a charisma. Now, I really didn't get to show that against Forrest Griffin, but they really didn't have much, chemistry or hate for any other. Now, there wasn't that much hate between, Evans and Jackson, but, that little promo thing that they did at the end of UFC 96, that was fucking awesome. Now, granted, at the time was for the belt, but still, now this is maybe to put themselves back in the title picture, because now the rumor going around is it'll be Machida versus Shogun. I believe that's actually supposed to take place at the Starrcade show in December, which is what they're calling it. I'm not just saying that because, that's when, the Crockett's and WCW used to run their last big show. No, that's actually what this one's going to be called this year. So I think that's great. Machida may face on that show as well. So you may as well have your number one contender revealed, and you may as well have Machida get the victory there. So anyways, that's it for me. I am out. Peace.